I have read the second part of the book, Battlefield of the Mind by Joyce Meyer. It's quite big part, it's more than 110 pages in this part, and I will share all the quotes that I have written so far. And it's quite good part. I enjoyed it, and I took a lot of different quotes from this book so far. Have you noticed that the condition of your mind changes? One time you may be calm and peaceful, another time anxious and worried. On you, or you may make a decision and be sure about it, then later find your mind in a confused condition concerning the very thing you were previously so clear and certain about. So basically, what she mentions that a lot of times when we make decisions, our decision seems very very clear, but after a while, we start worrying and thinking about the same decision over and over again, and we start thinking about all the things possibly go wrong, and because of that, our mind starts to be more fearful and we are not clear as we used to before. So that means we need to be very careful how we think and how we put our thoughts together. Because it seems that the mind so many can be in so many conditions, I began to wonder when is my mind normal. It's interesting because basically what she says that when do you think your mind is normal? Is when questioning everything or when it's calm and peaceful? Basically, so when we need to figure out what is normal. Because when you know what is normal, what is abnormal, you're able to work and fix when you feel that your mind is abnormal. Uh, Recognizing the problem is the first step to recovery. So that's basically, as I mentioned, that if you realize that your mind is moving into abnormal activities, the things that doesn't help you to move forward, you're able to fix it because you understand that this is not helping you to have bad thoughts in your mind. The mind is normal when it is at rest, not blank, but at rest. And mind too busy is abnormal. So that means we need to understand that peaceful mind is much better than having a mind who's constantly worrying, thinking, and overthinking. So that means if you feel that you're overthinking, we need to find a way how we could release all those thoughts and go back to the mind when you have that rest in your mind. Often the real problem behind a lack of comprehension is a lack of attention caused by wandering mind. A lot of times, including myself, if we read a book and we're reading a page, and after a while you understand that you didn't understand what is was written because doesn't show that you are not able to comprehend what is written. What it is just your attention is not there with the book. So that sometimes you just need to go back and read it again because you're able to focus on the book itself. I love the story when I shared that there was four people driving in a car, and the driver sneezed, and no one noticed it. So he said "bless you" by himself, and then a person sitting beside um, got realized what happened, and he said, "I'm sorry, I was in New York." So other people shared where they were as well. One was in the beach, another one person was somewhere else. But that means you can be sitting in a car, and your body will be in that location, but your mind could be a totally different location. Could be 8,000 miles away. Like it could be even everywhere where you want to put a mind. And sometimes we need to be careful where we put our minds. Mm. So basically, my body was standing there operating to listen, yet in my mind, I heard nothing. So, how often do you speak with someone but you're not able to hear them because your mind is somewhere else? If you catch yourself, you're supposed to say sorry to a person that you were listening to and say that you were not able to listen to them because you had um, wandering mind, but you would love to listen and just bring back the topic because if you really want to build strong relations, you need to be able to hear people, not just to listen, because listening and hearing is all different things. Reasoning is dangerous for many reasons, but one of them is this: we can reason and figure something out that seems to make sense to us. But what we have reason to be correct may still be incorrect. That means a lot of times when we make a decision, we start reasoning and start to find the reasons why it's work, why it will not work, and we can come up with the reason that it requires us to stop doing something, and we say that those reasons are reasonable, but a lot of times will be false because our mind just want to be comfortable, and what is reasonable for comfortable and what is reasonable for uncomfortable is all different things. So that means that sometimes we need to get input from other people who could normalize our struggles or not put our reasons into bad perspective. We can find something our minds are comfortable with and still be totally wrong. So that means that, again, when we think about all the reasons, those reasons could be comfortable for us. Because a lot of times when we think about all the things that we need to think about, the last destination where we're supposed to lead is that all the thinking should lead to action. If there is no action at the end, that means most likely that thinking was wrong. Or not wrong, but it could be not fully correct or right. We can find something our minds come to. Well, this is already I said. Although some wondering about thing is normal, it is excessive. It can lead to a person in indecision, and indecision cause confusion. So that means when a person is thinking a lot and pondering, that could lead to indecision. And when you do not make a decision for a long time, it leads to confusion. I have met a lot of people who are struggling to make a decision, and after a while that decision to make a decision becomes even harder and harder because they put so many things to consider, and there's like huge pages of cons and pros that could be for one reason, another reason, and that is even harder because sometimes we don't need to know as much. We just take action, move forward, and after a while we can decide if that was a good decision or not. Very often the storms ceases as soon as you quit and go back into what you think is a place of safety and security. That means a lot of times we are struggling and we are feeling uncomfortable, but those uncomfortable things is for the good reason, because when you're pursuing success, greatness, there's a lot of battles need to happen in your mind because you could get a lot of rejections, and all those rejections could create storms in your mind. But when you go back to comfort zone, all those storms disappears because you believe that you are in a safety. But that safety is just fake safety because your dreams are left alone. And of course, after a long time, when you will not pursue your dreams, you will regret those days and will create even bigger storm in the future. Um, During a storm, remember that the mind is a battlefield. During a storm, remember that the mind is a battlefield. Don't make your decisions based on your thoughts and or feelings, but check with your spirit. So that means that the bigger the storm, the bigger the battle. Because our mind will be a lot of negative and positive thoughts, and we need to make sure that we build our army of positive thoughts, that we during the storm be able to persevere and still be positive and to have the great attitude, and just to make sure that our actions still are based on our positive thoughts and not the feelings. And basically we can pursue our actions and do our actions by the strategies they made and not our feelings. I could not have joy and peace because I was not believing. It is impossible to have joy and peace and live in unbelief. So that means if we want to have a joyful, peaceful life, we need to start believing, because a lot of times people do not pursue their dreams because they do not believe that they are capable of. And if you do not believe, it's very hard, because you're always constantly thinking about, can I not? But when you start believing in your power, in your abilities, in your skills, you say, how can I? And when you ask for how can I, then you start for looking for ways how to make it, and you don't ask can I. So that is a huge difference into belief and unbelief. Some people have such a problem with worry that it might even be said that they are addicted to worrying. If they do not have something of their own to worry about, they will worry over someone else's situation. Ask yourself, do you worry for someone else's problems? Because if you do, you might be addicted to worrying, and that is an interesting concept, because our life is supposed to be peaceful. So we're supposed to be not thinking about worries. We're supposed to think about how we could improve our lives, but not what could go wrong. It is absolutely impossible to worry and live in peace at the same time. So that means that's why it's very important not to worry, because if you want to have peace in your life, worry is not your companion, because that means you need to have a joy, not the worry itself. We can choose to be peaceful by choosing to think on things that promote peace rather than the things that open a door for worry and anxiety. So that means when you think about our peaceful mind, we need to make sure what thoughts we have in our minds. If we, of course, constantly thinking about the beach and meditate and put our thoughts into the mindful present place, of course we will be much more joyful. But if we will think about all the things that could go wrong, about all the future things that you don't know how that will turn out, that potentially could create worry and anxiety. Of course, I understand that sometimes we need to think about all the future that is important, but I think that we're supposed to allocate time to think for 15, 20, maybe an hour about all those things, and then forget about it for that certain amount of time, that you could live a joyful life. It is easy to have peace when there is nothing to be upset about. Now, when a lot of times people live in a comfort zone, and then they say that, oh, I'm not upset about anything, but you're not upset about anything because you do not pursue anything. So sometimes we need to have something to worry about, because if that means that we need to pursue something, go and put ourselves in uncomfortable positions, and when you feel uncomfortable, there is sometimes to worry about. But of course, you are able to put your positive thoughts together, and you don't need to worry about itself again. Which one truly depicts peace? That's She shares few perspectives about peace, and there was two artists who painted peace. One was um, a quiet still lake, and other one was a raging and rushing waterfall. And she asked, so which one is a peace? A quiet, peaceful lake, or raging waterfall? And she said that I truly believe that is a raging waterfall is peace, because you need to be peaceful when the storm goes by. Because if you are peaceful during a quiet lake, that is a stagnation. That means that nothing is moving, everything is just stopped. And when, of course, it's easy to be peaceful when everything stopped, but we're supposed to be peaceful when everything is moving, and that is the best way of seeing peace. There will there will no there will be no day worry free. Every day there's something to worry about. So when you realize that there will be no worry free days in life, you understand that there is nothing to worry about itself, because just too many things to consider when you think about life in general. Um, Sometimes we are more concerned about telling people what we think than we are about listening, learning, and building good relationship. It's interesting that when you think about relationships and all the things we know, we trying to put all that knowledge to other people because we think that our knowledge is much more important than other people. But when you realize you start valuing other people, you start to listen them more than you trying to put your own thoughts into them. um, and I think that's the way to build relationships, just to listen what other people have to say. Remember, your actions won't change until your mind changes, or until your mind does. So that means a lot of times people want to change themselves, but they do not invest to change their mind. So that means we need to start reading books, if we need to attend seminars, we need to change our station and really change the way how we are programmed and change the way how we think. And when we change the way how we think, our actions will change automatically. An empty passive mind can be easily filled with all kinds of wrong thoughts. There are wrong things that we do and there are right things that we don't do. The first thing that mentioned that empty passive mind can be easily filled with all kinds of wrong thoughts is that when we do not think about a lot of different things, there could be that other people will start putting bad thoughts into you. So maybe we'll watch bad news, and because you do not have any good thoughts in your mind, you'll start thinking about the bad thoughts. So we need to be very careful to have empty mind. So that means if you have empty mind, what is more important is to put a lot of great thoughts first before you're able to look for some extra input. Um, there are wrong things that we do and there are right things that we don't do. So when you think about all the things that you do, most people think that sometimes is passive is more important, and not doing something is more important, or some people believe that is something to do is more important. But I truly believe that sometimes we need to do. Basically, there's a lot of things that we're supposed to do. So that means reading books, listening audios, attending seminars, and that those is right things that we're supposed to do, but we don't do. And because we don't do those right things, we are not able to change our minds. Even though that we do some things, for example, the wrong things that we do is like listening news, and basically this is both those things are doesn't allow you to have a positive mind and positive thoughts. So that means you always need to reflect on all the things that you do that could be wrong and all the things that you don't do that is right, that to help you to increase the capacity of your mind. I love this saying that you must have backbone and not just wishbone. So that means when you think about all the things that you do and you want to achieve in your life, we need to have a backbone. That means a strong foundation to make sure that you keep at it. Because a wishbone is when you have a lot of shoulds. I should do something, but those shoulds doesn't build your dream. But what dreams builds your dream is actions that is based on that backbone, and having that foundation to move forward. I loved that one sentence that she shared with us is, I already know what I know. I try to be quiet and listen so I can find out what others know. So this is back again to the listening topic, that sometimes people want to give their knowledge and wisdom because they know so much, and they need to know that everyone knows what they know. But very wise people are listening other people and they want to learn what other people know, just they could become more wiser, and that's basically that kind of knowledge really brings more wealth to those people. We must realize that we have our own way of seeing things. People have a right to make their own decisions without outside interference. A lot of times, people believe that everyone's supposed to think the same way, and if they don't think the same way, that means that they are wrong. But when you think about different cultures, different um, upbringings, and there's so many different things to consider, and there is no wrong thinking most of the time. It's just different perspective. When you realize that it is different perspective, you allow other people to think their own way and appreciate their different way of thinking. And when you appreciate their own thinking, you are able to find their other people thinking valuable and adjust your own thinking as well. One way to keep wrong thoughts out of your mind is to keep your mind full of right thoughts. So this is again the same thought that I shared before. So if we want to control our thoughts, we need to make sure that we put as many positive thoughts in our mind. So we have positive association, speaking about ideas and possibilities, listening audios and podcasts. It's a positive, reading positive books, and all those things allow you to keep your mind full, that no other bad thoughts coming into your mind. A passive person thinks he's doing nothing wrong because he's doing nothing. Again, when you think about doing nothing, there's a lot of times something needs to be done. So if there is something problem, and that problem is increasing, if you will not do nothing, of course nothing will change. So if there is something is leaking, and if you don't do nothing and you are passive, of course something that is leaking will leak out, and you will not be able to solve a problem. But if you take action and solve the problem right away, you will be able to change something in life. So passivity is not always the good thing. Nothing is closer to us than our own thoughts. It's an interesting perspective. Nothing is closer to us than our own thoughts. So that means our thoughts is so close that we need to take care of our thoughts a lot, because we need to make sure that we spend as much time as we can to take care of our thoughts, because the thoughts with us is all the time. So we need to make sure that those thoughts are taken care of. If you ever want to behave any better, you have to change your thinking first. That means that I think that everyone wants to be a little bit better, and they try to change their behavior, but it's very hard to change behavior before changing their thinking. And that means that we really need to invest in our thoughts first before we investing anywhere else. And when people say that what to do when they have $10,000, so I truly believe in saying that invest $5,000 in your thinking first, and then you will know exactly what to do with that other 5,000, and will make much more than putting those $10,000 into investing itself before building your thoughts and thinking. As you begin to think lovely thoughts about people, you will find them behaving in a more lovely manner. Thoughts and words are containers or weapons for carrying creative or destructive power. I truly believe that when you see other people in a positive light, they start to feel that you see them in a positive light, and they start to act in a more positive manner, and that is basically all the benefits. So, and if it's vice versa as well. If you see people in negative light, they see that you see them in negative light, and they will act in negative way to make sure that it fills fulfilling prophecy basically. A powerful life cannot be lived without thanksgiving. And I truly believe that gratefulness and gratitude is one of the most powerful tools in our lives. And if you have a bad day, being thankful for all the things that you have and did, and it was positive, will make your day. When someone does something nice for you, let him know that you appreciate it. It's interesting because a lot of times people are afraid to give appreciation, but I truly believe that as small as it could be, appreciation is a very, very strong tool, because what you appreciate. So the more you appreciate something, the more you receive it. Of course, this is not about my manipulation. I'm just saying that always people want to be appreciated, and if you appreciate that, they feel heard, they feel seen, and of course, people want to be seen, and they will love to get that appreciation even more. Um, Basically, the last code that I took was I look better because I am not worried, sad, and miserable. Misery shows on your face, but so does joy. The happier we are, the younger we look. It's interesting. I always seem pretty young. Um, I am 31 years old, but I have heard so many times that I look much, much younger. And I think partly is because I always trying to pursue some kind of better life, and I always happy about it, and I'm not as worried about all the things that is coming in our life, in my life, because I always asking one question: if this thing will matter in 5, 10 years, and most time the answer is no. So I stop worrying about it, and of course, if I do not worry about it and I joyful about my day, I feel younger, and this feeling of feeling younger show up on my outside, and that's, I believe that everyone's supposed to think that way, and really feel younger, look younger, and live younger. This was a quite big part. I shared quite a lot of thoughts, and I'm looking for the chapter, third part, because there's a lot of things that I think that we'll learn from that third part. I'm looking forward to share more what I learned from this book.